Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined, as always, by Mr. Denny Carter. It is Monday in March. A lot going on in the NFL world. The Combine just wrapped up. Free agency is somehow only a week away. Free agency, same week as the NCAA tournament, huh?
We love that, don't we?
Really got to do that, huh, NFL? But we got Denny Carter back in the fold today. And Denny, you weren't here on Thursday. I come in, by the way, take people a little behind the curtain. I come in today, sign on for this podcast, and you're in the background talking about golf with our producer, Adam Wise. And, if you're familiar with CD Carter 13 on Twitter, he's out there as like a man of the people, a legion of the common folk. And he's talking about golf. And last week you were skiing in Quebec.
That's right.
Also known as Canada. And just take how is this possible? How
do I justify
Denny Carter, man of the people, and yet you're golfing, you're skiing in a French-speaking province, Denny?
Well, what would I be doing? So should I be wearing a potato sack and throwing a ball against a wall?
You should be wearing a barrel 24 hours.
And throwing a tennis ball against a brick wall over and over and over. That should be what I do for sports.
Yes.
Barrels.
Your entire attire should be barrels.
It's I have several barrels in my closet actually. Just to
never seen you wear one. Curious.
Yeah, the barrels that fit me in my 20s no longer fit. I don't really know what's going on there. But we're looking into that. No, it is hard to justify my love of elite sports like golf. Now skiing is not my sport. I just want to be clear. That's my wife's sport. So I'm married into skiing. My wife is an amazing skier.
A golfer married a skier. We've never heard that one before in Switzerland.
Right. It's the first time that's ever happened outside of a millionaire marriage, actually.
It is.
So we are unique in that way. But here's the thing. My wife comes from a working class background, and her parents were determined for her and her 4 siblings to learn how to ski and ski right. So they took them to Canada every year, and they grinded lessons over and over and over for year after year. And now they're all great. And guess what? They're my in-laws' grandkids are now great, including my son and my daughter, who ski way better than I do. So it's great.
Yeah, skiing is one of those things that ship has sailed for me.
Oh, no, stop. You could ski. Look, I actually on Friday I went out. I went out on the slopes, and I was intimidated. I was very intimidated because we're in Quebec. People are skiing from the time they walk there. I mean, literally, like babies are like
zooming by you,
are coming down the hill.
My new 2-week-old daughter Alice was in Quebec last week, and
I saw her. She went past me. I said, "Alice, wait." Yeah. No, and so I was a little bit hesitant to get on there, but I stuck to the smaller slopes. And I did okay. The one thing that went wrong was when my wife said stop, I didn't stop, and I actually went on to the wrong hill, which was a black diamond, and I was then terrified for my life. I actually thought that I may not make it. All I could do was to try to slow down by just going boom, 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 just chopping up the snow at wherever I could. I still fell. I got a face full of snow, but I lived to tell about it.
Those chops, that's when the meniscus goes. So
Pat, I had a moment where I felt a little bit of a twinge, and I thought, that's the ACL. It has to be. And I'm a hypochondriac, so of course I thought it was the ACL.
I think that's why I couldn't ski at this point, because I've always been like reasonably athletic, like in terms of this like general like springiness and like fluidness. And I think like I still do dumb things. Like I play tennis sometimes, and I insist I only ever jump over the net. I do it because I find it fun, but I do it to like send a message to my opponents too.
No, stop.
And
stop.
I'm dead serious.
You don't do this.
I do this, and I'm just afraid that one of these days that's when the ACL is going to go, because I think I can still do it. And I do think I come out skiing, I'm like, this isn't too bad. And the next thing I know, I have a swelling, getting worse knee.
I'm picturing you. I'm picturing you jumping over a net and then just staring down your opponent, being like, "You see that? See what I can do? Are you scared? Too scared to play me?"
Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny.
It's head games. Yeah. Why? I mean, plus it's just faster. It's more efficient. It's a grind set thing. Why would I walk around the net?
When I used to play tennis quite a bit, and I would attempt to jump over the net every time, and I have to report that there was one time where my toe got caught on the net. I ended up just face first into the concrete.
I've never done it, but I know it's coming this year. And speaking of elitism, this is actually not a joke. I'm going to Quebec this year.
You are?
Yeah. So my wife's parents' 50th anniversary is this year, Denny.
Oh wow!
And they want to take a scenic trip to Quebec. So
it's a beautiful area,
Quebec City.
I enjoyed it. I mean, there could be a little more English going on, but I'm not going to complain. Also, no Natty Light, apparently.
No, but they've got. I mean, Labatt Blue. That's all you need up in old Canada town.
Well, all the restaurants, they have a beer that tastes, I don't know, like bitters. I mean, it tastes like my coffee.
I love Quebec, by the way. I love Montreal. Montreal is one of the finest cities in North America. Hitting up Quebec City this summer. We are hitting up the NFL now, Denny. Moving on. The French don't know anything about football. I think there may be a few French Canadians who've been in the NFL, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So French Canada pumps out a lot of great North American athletes. A lot of times like vicious hockey players. But yeah, we have
great CFL players. No one talks about
that's true. That is true. Anyways, we love our French Canada. We love our Derek Carr ? Denny Carter, a 4-year deal worth a reported $150 million with around $70 million fully guaranteed. The young man played his cards right, and he's not a New York Jet. He is a New Orleans Saint. We've been sharing memes amongst the staff here. Like he's just like a redder Alex Jones than Andy Dalton. But is that uncharitable? We're skeptical how big of an upgrade it really is in Andy Dalton. It is an upgrade. We have no idea if it's a big enough upgrade for what this Saints team needs. Where I did the team quarterback need rankings a few weeks ago, where I thought a new quarterback would make the biggest difference. I had the Saints near the bottom of the 9 teams that I thought were pretty much guaranteed to have new quarterbacks. I had the Jets at the very top. Just what do we make of this? Like, is this like an NFC South altering move with Derek Carr arriving in New Orleans?
No, the Saints still stink, and that doesn't change here. Look, I know what you just said, and I get it. Okay, I get it. Like, okay, obviously this is an improvement upon the quarterback situation.
Yeah, we can joke about it, but he is better than Andy. I mean,
here's the thing, and listeners know this. You are an Andy Dalton hater. You are completely sideways on Andy Dalton, and have been for years. I mean, you have a visceral hatred for Andy. I mean, not as a person, but as a player.
No, as a person too. He actually seems really, really nice. He's one of those guys where you feel bad because he seems like one of the hashtag good guys.
I just remember that Christian Bale rant on set from like 10 years ago where he was like, "You and me are done professionally. Personally, I'm fine, but professionally, we're finished."
I believe that was the Terminator Salvation set, classic film.
I love that. That rant is maybe my favorite of all time. So you don't like Andy Dalton professionally. Personally, you're fine. You love Andy Dalton.
He's like a great guy. Yeah.
Look, here's what I'll say. And I'm going to write about this. You can catch it on NBCSportsEdge.com, powered by Rotoworld soon. There's reason to believe that Derek Carr is a downgrade.
Oh, okay. Come on. I mean, I'm willing to be contrarian that it's not that big of an upgrade. I don't know about downgrade.
This is not my opinion. As someone who's never watched either guy play, let me just tell you about the numbers, okay?
All right, lay it on us.
I'm going to need you to mute your mic.
I actually am muting my mic. I won't cut you off here.
Maybe just step away for like 5 minutes.
That's a good idea. All right. I'll let you have the floor, though.
Go get the lawyers. So on adjusted EPA per dropback, this is going to get really dorky, just so you guys know, but adjusted EPA per dropback, Carr has the edge, okay? I'm going to start out by saying, yes, Derek Carr had a higher adjusted EPA per dropback. He was 13th in the NFL last season. Andy Dalton was 18th. Okay, we have that out of the way. Now comes the ugly stuff for Saints fans who think that their team just made a good move. Adjusted net yards per attempt, a very good measure of a quarterback's efficiency. Dalton was 10th. Carr was 19th last season. Completion rate over expected. Andy Dalton had the 14th highest completion rate over expected. Derek Carr had the 28th highest completion rate over expected last season. Passing success rate. Okay, this is a very good measure of how efficient a quarterback is. Dalton was eighth among all quarterbacks last year. Derek Carr was 27th. And finally, 82% of Andy Dalton's throws were deemed catchable last season. That led all NFL quarterbacks, while 60% of Carr's throws were deemed catchable. And this has nothing to do with Dalton checking down. His ADOT was in the same range as Derek Carr. So it's not, he didn't cheat on that last stat, the catchable passes. All I'm saying is that Derek Carr broke the bank, and good for him, because that's his last big contract. And there's no reason to believe the Saints offense will be any different with him under center.
I mean, it is a game changer from the fact that they are now the first NFC South team that has a quarterback. So that's good news.
Yeah. Right.
One of 4 NFC South teams now have their 2023 starting quarterback. And the stats you laid out are grisly. I mean, they're advanced stats, so you could, debate them a little bit. Smaller sample size. And maybe one quibble I'd have with that, and this isn't something you can do like live during the show, but yeah, I would maybe have compared Dalton's 2022 stats to Carr's 2021 stats, because Carr just wasn't jibing with Josh McDaniels last year at all. Especially when I heard that catchable ball stat where he said only 60% of Carr's passes were catchable. That made sense to the eye test, where I feel like he was like square peg in a round hole kind of in that McDaniels system. Where he just kept calling throws that he just didn't want to attempt. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
They just didn't seem on this, but I can't imagine it'd be that much different in 2021. And where I think John Gruden took Derek Carr as far as any coach can take Derek Carr. And as we saw, it really wasn't that far at the end of the day. He wrung every last drop of efficiency out of Derek Carr. And Pete Carmichael and the Saints, I mean, they're not going to be able to improve on what Josh McDaniels did with Derek Carr. And that's just where I think he needed to go to a total push button ready-made setup. We've been talking about the Jets and the Saints. This is a roster's going the wrong direction, and they were already in salary cap hell. Now they have this monster contract for a quarterback who's just middle of the road at best. And it just strikes me as a very much wrong man at the wrong place at the wrong time kind of deal. And that it would have been better off for Derek Carr's legacy if someone can actually use that phrase to go many different places. He needs the money. You can't quit. Like you say, he's over 30. This is his last payday. He's got to take this contract. He's got to take this deal. But in terms of football impact, I think he could have gone places where it would have been a much better fit.
I would agree with that. And ideally, the Jets wouldn't have fired their offensive coordinator and brought in Nathaniel Hackett. And in that way, under LaFleur, I believe Carr could have been a very solid option for the Jets.
Oh, true. That would have been a really, really good fit. And
I don't know if anybody's a good option now for the Jets with Nathaniel Hackett at the helm.
The eggs are in the Aaron Rodgers basket, Denny. The amount of eggs the Jets have in the Aaron Rodgers basket are overflowing, and some are cracking. My children are now crying. There's just eggs being wasted.
And have you seen the price of eggs? I think the Jets are going to see that.
That's why the Jets have filed for Chapter 11.
We're just getting word right now.
Yeah.
This is a Saints team that has for years refused to give in to the rebuild. And they're just going to scrape by. I guess it's a conscious decision that we're going to try to sneak into the playoffs here and there, but this team would need to do a total teardown to be a Super Bowl contender within the next 3 or 4 or 5 years. They're not going to do that. They broke the bank for Derek Carr. Your Saints fans are condemned to mediocrity. I hope they understand that.
You're right. And in some ways, it's a refreshing trend in North American sports that there's a team that just refuses to tear down and won't give in to the rebuild.
Yeah,
I like teams that actually try to just stay competitive every year. And hope that it kind of all comes together, but it's just so hard in a salary cap league. And the Saints team, this is a team that unfortunately just does need to tear down. That is the reality in the NFL. When you get to a certain point, they needed to tear. I mean, if they weren't going to tear down, the very last thing they needed to be doing was committing, almost $100 million guaranteed to Derek Carr. That's just
right.
Like, if they weren't going to tear down, at the very least, they needed to do something other than that. I feel like.
By the way, people can nitpick this contract all they want. Oh, it's not that bad. He only gets this much guarantee. It's a lot of money. It's a lot. There are no two ways about it. Derek Carr got a lot of guaranteed money, and I know that I see people on Twitter. Oh, no, this is a great deal for the Saints. It's not. It's not a great deal. Also, the Saints being this team that won't rebuild, wasn't it just such a natural rebuilding point after Drew Brees retired? I mean, that to me was like the time. Like, okay, we need to just move everybody, clear a bunch of cap space, get some picks, get younger. Okay, they're such an old team. And no, they're not, and they're going to continue on with this 8-win, 9-win thing that they're going for.
I sort of think you could defend them waiting a year or two because the roster was like so over leveraged and so overburdened and like so old that I could see them like credibly convincing themselves like, all right, let's just not blow it up yet. Let's see if we can get lucky in 2021 or 2022. They tried that. They did not. They at one point unleashed Ian Book on this world. Look it up. People may not remember. Look it up.
Wow.
Brian Flores ended the young man's life on Monday Night Football, didn't he?
I mean, Ian Book ended the COVID era.
He did. I forgot. That is what ended the pandemic.
They said the owners called Roger Goodell the next day and said, we can't have that anymore. Like whatever that was, we have to stop. So the next day they were like, there's no more COVID, guys.
No, they were right. It was the right call. It was a tough call. It was the right call for the NFL owners to end the pandemic at that very moment. But so, the Saints, they are tripling down. We are tripling down on talking about the Cowboys backfield. It's seemingly the only thing we ever talk about. Another thing, when you were in good old Quebec last Thursdays, we spent a long time talking about the Cowboys backfield. We don't really want to talk about it again, but there's been major developments. Tony Pollard has been franchise tagged. There's chatter in league circles via ESPN's Dan Graziano that Zeke could be cut. The Zeke era could actually be ending. So we know Pollard, unless they have designs on trading him, which I highly doubt, is coming back for 2023. Zeke's status is still up in the air. Could be resolved as soon as this week. Mm-hmm. I just wonder, is there even though the Cowboys, are spending their entire offseason talking about how they're going more run heavy, how much room is there for Pollard to actually grow in this offense, even if Zeke's gone? Or is this just going to be a situation where Pollard is going to be there, but he's just going to always be paired with someone else to take wear and tear off of him? And have we already seen Tony Pollard's max season fantasy, or is there indeed still room to grow?
I mean, the peripheral numbers say that he can do what he did this year again. There's nothing that jumps out that says, oh man, he got Pollard got lucky with the touchdowns or got lucky with yards per target or reception or whatever. All that aligns with a guy who can do something, at least something similar again. So no, I don't think that he's, it's all downhill from here or anything. I will say that this team is seemingly very intent on not using him as a workhorse. And, that makes sense. Maybe size wise, explosiveness wise, it reminds me of the way that Kansas City used Jamal Charles before, Andy Reid, came to the team and that worked out fine. Jamal Charles was a hyper efficient, both as a pass catcher and as a rusher, but he wasn't getting 20 touches a game. And I don't foresee a scenario where Pollard is used in that way. So if Zeke is released, which is just really an unimaginable scenario for as much as the Joneses love their Zeke.
They're about to be, I don't know how the range on Jerry Jones's yacht is, but they're signing him up for a trip that goes as far as that boat will go. Yes. And then where he can't even get satellite phone reception, and then they're making the move.
Yeah, I mean it does, but if they release him, then I think you could probably look for the Cowboys to draft a running back. I don't know how high, but Stephen Jones, the executive vice president, said last week that he is not, quote, philosophically opposed, unquote, to taking a running back in the first round. So we have to keep tabs on that.
It's known as the Bijan alternative.
That is what we're calling it right now.
That is what we're calling it. Yeah, Jerry Jones has no idea why his sons have chartered a trip to the middle of the Indian Ocean for his yacht. There's very little land around there. They're sending him to Diego Garcia. If you don't know what it is, look it up. He's going there to visit some troops. And then when he's there, they're going to cut Ezekiel Elliott because he can't stop the move. He's in the middle of the Indian
right.
Ocean.
Oh, my God. So that is what's happening.
That is what's happening. Yeah, and so let's just say this. If Pollard's back. If Zeke is not back, would you be comfortable using a first-round pick on Tony Pollard in fantasy drafts?
I mean, no.
Really? Because I mean, like, you're essentially – it's basically Austin Eckler, isn't it? It's similar to Alvin Kamara in his prime, is it not? Like, seriously, is it not?
I don't think he's seeing that sort of target volume.
I don't know. I don't mean they're down very bad on a receiver. I could see Pollard being a pretty safe first round pick.
You're gonna if you want Tony Pollard, you're gonna have to take him in the first round.
That's true. That's a better way to put it. Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
I guess it's not. I don't think the prospect is like horrifying, but his role would have to change quite a bit. And the prospect of the Cowboys like going in on a running back in the draft is real and terrifying if you are like drafting best ball teams right now and being like, oh, Tony Pollard is going to get 350 touches this year. He's not.
Yeah, no, he is not. So you're hoping for an Eckler type season. You're hoping for Kamara type season. Kamara very rarely ever reached 20 touches until basically his legs were already gone the past year or two. So I think Tony Pollard, I'd feel fairly safe with Tony Pollard as a first round. But like you said, it's kind of a moot point because if you're going to want him, he's going to be a first-round pick. So you're going to have to take him in the first round. Yeah. Zeke is gone. Someone who has been going in the first round, seemingly since the LBJ administration, Derrick Henry, Bally Sports' Michael Silver, one time kind of like a powerhouse NFL insider. You don't hear his name quite as much anymore, but he has a long track record as a reporter, has reported that Derrick Henry could be traded, could be released, I guess, maybe, from the Titans, who have been in the business of getting much younger this offseason. They're cutting a lot of guys. It makes sense in that they have a new GM. They have quarterback question marks. Maybe they don't think they're just ready to compete after they faded so badly down the stretch in 2022. Are we putting any credence in the fact that Derrick Henry could be on a different team? And just like, where would it even make sense for Henry if he does move on?
The only team I thought of was the Seahawks.
Oh, no.
just Pete Carroll to just run it 35 times at Derrick Henry as his dream come true. I guess there are probably a handful of teams that would jump at the opportunity to get Derrick Henry just as for a 1 year, I guess what you would call a Super Bowl run, even though
there could be some really great, teams that could like the Bills, the Chiefs.
The Bills are
Dolphins.
The Bills are very interested in upgrading at running back, it seems. So I guess that would make some sense. How he would fit into an offense with one of the highest pass rate over expected, I don't know. I don't know how that would work out. But the new Titans GM just like 6 days ago was saying how they want to be a ground and pound team, and it's nice to be the Golden State Warriors, one of the most successful basketball teams of all time. But when it comes to January, you can't be the Warriors anymore. You got to run the ball.
Warriors, who checks notes, have gone 0 years since their last championship.
Right. One of the greatest runs in professional sports history. We don't want to be like those guys. No. Okay. We want to be like the teams that never win and establish the run in January. So I have a tough time like seeing this report and then comparing it to what the GM said and say, oh, okay, like they're ready to move on. I would say it is probably time to move on. It's probably time to have a post Derrick Henry plan for the Titans, considering his workload and his age.
It's bad because it is time to move on from Derrick Henry, from the kind of contracts he's bought. It's maybe not time to move on from him as an impact NFLer, but he's at the stage of his career where it just has to be year to year. and he's not going to agree to go year to year with the team where he's currently signed long term. So it'd have to be a trade. It would have to be a release. It'd have to be a new contract where he could still be an elite impact player in 2023. But the current state of the Titans roster, then again, I mean, they're in this division that is totally up for grabs. I could see themselves easily talking into one more year with Derrick Henry and it not being a horrible plan either. I frankly, don't think they should cut him. I think they maybe should go down the Derrick Henry ship, even though he's already like beating the running back aging curve. Like, whereas like you should quit while you're ahead. But I mean, why would they not go down?
He is different though, and they have a very very good in-season program for Derrick Henry. You can read all about it online. The Titans make great efforts to make sure that Henry is in game shape and is able to recover from his massive workload as the centerpiece of that offense. I don't think you can apply. It's not that I think you can't apply the same logic to Derrick Henry as you do other running backs of his age.
No, and this is not a team that's going to be making an impact in the passing game next season. So I think they should hold on to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, probably.
Unless they just think he's totally done. I mean, they would know better than anyone else, but there was not indication that he was totally done in 2022.
Man, the Bills are interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm glad you mentioned the Bills. That could be a real landing spot.
The Chiefs, I feel like, could be interesting too, but maybe they just saw too much out of Pacheco to really cast him aside. Because the Chiefs have kind of created a role in their offense for a running back that doesn't catch passes. And so I could see Henry being an intriguing fit there. But I don't think Derrick Henry's totally done. I do think we are totally done with this segment and that we will be right back after this. It's a new MLB season. There are new rules and new stars. So pair it with the Rotoworld Baseball Draft Guide. Get all the player profiles, rankings, and projections you need to hit your draft out of the park. Go to NBCSportsEdge.com/draft guide and use promo code PENNANT25 to save 25% at checkout. That is promo code PENNANT25 to save 25% at checkout. And don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. The Rotoworld app is available in your app store today. And Denny, I would be remiss if I did not mention, check out the Rotoworld Baseball Mock Draft going live on Thursday. I'll be there, DJ Short and a lot of other big names in the industry drafting teams. I'm in a slow draft right now. I'm not on the clock. If you were listening last Thursday, you heard me holding up my draft direly long. Currently not on the clock, and I'll be drafting a DJ, and you can check that out on our YouTube page on Thursday and elsewhere. It's gonna be a really, really good time. Tell you who didn't have a really good time in 2022, Denny. Allen Robinson. No. And the Rams, as they do, this is like what the Rams do. They make like a big move, and then 1 year later, they're like, my bad. like every move they make somehow, my bad about that.
Yeah, well, it was bad. It was a terrible move. It turns out we're cutting bait.
And they've supposedly given Allen Robinson permission to seek a trade. A trade will not be forthcoming. He will probably be cut. And what do we say about it? I mean, our listeners probably know there's nothing really left to say about this at this point, is there? I mean, this is a dead letter in fantasy at this point, is it not, Allen Robinson?
Yeah, his efficiency per route, per target was near the bottom of the barrel last year. Even with Cooper Kupp missing significant time, Robinson was not doing much with his opportunity in an otherwise like decent Rams passing game. Well, at least it was the year before. I do think that it is a little tough to write him off completely, because the Rams offense fell off so quickly, and the offensive line issues just destroyed the passing game outside of the little dump offs and intermediate stuff to Cooper Kupp. Like that was the only thing that was their only offense. It was their only source of moving.
It was truly their only offense until mysteriously Cam Akers was good again late in the season.
Yeah, right. And which was pretty shocking after his start to the season. But yeah, so I do think that I'm not sure I'm completely just writing off Allen Robinson, but last year was bleak, and you would have to be pretty hard up to like take him in like a best ball draft at the moment. He would have to land in the perfect spot, right? He would have to land in a passing game where he's not the top option, and so secondaries won't focus on him, and you would have to bank on the fact that he has something left in the tank, which I guess is tough to say after last season.
He may not be done as like an NFL asset, but I think he's just totally an NFL real life role player at this point. And role players, unless it's like being a goal line back, just usually don't return the fantasy value you need. And Lord Reeves, our friend Rich Rebar, had a stat that very much matches the eye test with Allen Robinson, where he was apparently targeted on 29% of his routes against man coverage last season, and only 10% of his routes against zone. Reeves, that was the largest discrepancy for any receiver in the entire league last year. And he's a hand fighter. He's a contested catch winner. That is very much like you're a role player at that stage. Yeah. And it's just hard to see, unless that role is being like a red zone specialist, which the Rams tried to make happen with Allen Robinson and just failed in painful fashion. Like so many end zone targets that were just nowhere even close to connecting.
Right. I mean, you remember they were trying desperately to make Allen Robinson a thing, like in the red zone specifically, and that those were the preseason predictions and the reports at a camp is like with teams focusing so much on Cooper Kupp in the red zone inside the 10-yard line, the Rams are going to unleash Allen Robinson in single coverage, and Matthew Stafford's going to throw. And he did. He actually, at one point early in the season, was among the league leaders in targets inside the 10. I remember citing that stat and being like, well, it's got to happen at some point.
It was the 9th week in a row of you insisting he would break out, probably.
Right, the process. And it did, it's the first time the process has ever failed, unfortunately, but oh well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good process, and the results just were not there. If Sean McVay, I don't know. I was going to say if Sean McVay can't do it, I'm not sure who can. But Sean McVay has had trouble with a lot of like good receivers.
Yeah.
What a strange offense that Rams.
It is. I mean, like I look at the Rams offense and I go, is it good?
I know it's bizarre, and like, is he good as like an offensive mastermind? Like McVay, clearly like a complete master of detail, an amazing leader, like has an amazing overall vision.
Yeah.
But every year, not like his offensive plan, I'm like, I don't know. Like, sure, like to punt and run a lot.
I remember it, right in the season opener against Buffalo. I remember, seeing the way that they were using Cooper Kupp as both their only source of a running game with dump offs near the line of scrimmage and the passing game, and thinking, well, this is what you came into the season with, like this is what you have right now. It was really something.
I think he's fallen into just the classic personnel trap. Amazing coach, probably is still an amazing offensive innovator and play caller, but he's created a lot of problems for himself by pursuing like passion projects and like giving up this massive trade and draft capital and salary cap space for people who just aren't fits. Like this has been happening year after year after year. And like he needs to like, I guess they got them the Super Bowl, but I feel like he definitely needs to like chill out on like, we got to have this player. Like Sean McVay, he's like got to have more players than like any coach in the NFL, basically.
Right.
And like that, I think they took that to the point of diminishing returns, and they have to be more patient with their roster building.
I mean, the Rams' offensive roster is a disaster.
Decrepit comes to mind.
Like truly horrifying. And that's why the Matthew Stafford elbow thing was so big last season, because it's like, well, without him, they don't have anybody. Like this offense without Matthew Stafford is like a bottom 3 unit. With him, they were a top, 15 unit.
Yeah. So. Speaking of Matthew Berry has a column worth his 23 like main takeaways of stuff he heard at the combine, and someone told him that like retirement could still be an option for Matthew Stafford, that he could like barely throw last year, that his elbow is just like totally jacked up. So I guess maybe something to monitor there with Matthew Stafford. Check out Matthew Berry's column at the site. And also Check out Lawrence Jackson's column on the combine. Really, really good stuff on guys whose stock went up, stock went down at the combine. That's what we're going to talk now, because no one's stock, the stonks, Denny, as they're known on the internet, are through the absolute roof for Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson. He blew up the combine like few people ever really do. Just like totally just blew the doors off the building with the athletic testing. I mean, 40 and a half inch vertical, broad jumping out of the building, just a total physical freak, the kind of like size and athletic combo that you just rarely see. But Denny, there are question marks.
There remains some question marks. Yeah, I mean,
if you Google Anthony Richardson sports reference and pull up his stats, you'd be like, this is the guy.
Yeah, right.
They're talking about.
You might start to have some question marks bubble up over the top of your head like a cartoon character. And you're right. He did blow the doors off. They literally had to get new doors for the NFL.
Did. I mean, it's actually Jim Irsay. It's really sad. He's suing the young man.
Yeah, right. Simply for jumping through the roof.
Yeah, for damaging Lucas Oil Field is very, very damaged. And I mean, I'm not saying Anthony Richardson hasn't been paid yet. He could offer to pay for some of it, though.
We're going to monitor that here at NBC Sports Edge. So let's start with the good stuff. All right. Anthony Richardson, 99th percentile 40-yard dash, 99th percentile burst score.
Wow.
His 40.5-inch vertical jump was the highest ever recorded for a quarterback at the NFL Combine. That is really, really something. So,
Denny, it sounds like he could jump over a tennis net.
I'm putting my money on him being able to jump over a tennis net. I even think he could jump higher than you.
I think he could probably jump over 2 tennis nets stacked on top of each other. Yeah.
I read an ESPN profile of Anthony Richardson, a really, really good piece this morning, and they had an anecdote in the piece where just an attendee, just someone at the combine, saw Richardson outside of the stadium and said, "Hey, are you testing today?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "What position are you?" And Richardson said, "What position do you think I am?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "Nose tackle, linebacker." Richardson said, "No." He said, "I get that a lot. I'm a quarterback." And the onlooker said, "Wow." So,
gosh, that's some great color to a piece.
Yeah, I really recommend that. So but the passing is an issue, and I think everybody knows that. Okay, his passing numbers. I have some stats here from 2022 in his the final season at Florida.
Are they advanced stats? Can I just give you the non-advanced stats really quick on Anthony Richardson?
Right. Mine are on the advanced side. Go ahead.
His entire career, he wasn't the starter till last year. Parts of 3 seasons, he threw for 24 touchdowns and had 15 picks. Like that's his career TD to INT total. In the completion percentage, never even approaching 60. Which we know all these stats they're not why you draft a player, but like just in terms of like the dinosaur stats where you pull up a guy's you Google Anthony Richardson ESPN and pull up his college stats. You're like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so lay on us the advanced stats, which I'm sure paint an even more interesting picture.
It is a little bit varied, but raises some concerns. So the Gators last season were 70th in passing EPA, which is near the bottom. So among all quarterbacks drafted, and by the way, this is these stats are courtesy of our colleague Zach Kruger, who can be found on Twitter at ZK_FFB. Zach Kruger, of course, a leading college football thought leader, who I read all of this stuff during the season, and he provided us with some really good stats that provide some context for Anthony Richardson heading into this draft. So among all quarterbacks drafted since 2016 who have played at least one game in the NFL, and this includes quarterbacks who are likely to be drafted in 2023, Richardson has the lowest completion rate on throws ranging between behind the line of scrimmage and the intermediate part of the field. Okay, like at the very bottom is the completion rate on those throws. He also has the lowest completion rate in throws from the line of scrimmage to the short area of the field of anyone in that category. Remember this?
Is that anyone drafted since 2016? You're saying who
has played at least one game in the NFL? Now, so his short area accuracy was atrocious. Okay, really, really bad. If you look at the guys around him in this database, you have Trey Lance, you have Trace McSorley, CJ Beathard, you have Chad Kelly. We all remember Chad Kelly.
Yeah, Chad Kelly. Is he in the USFL? Maybe he's in both the USFL and the XFL.
He has played some spring ball, yeah. So that those are concerning. Now there is it's not all doom and gloom with Richardson's passing stats. He was 49th out of 145 quarterbacks on pass attempts of more than 20 yards downfield. So they're considered deep balls. So that's not bad. Okay, that's you're in the top 1/3 of quarterbacks in deep ball. He has a very strong arm. I do think that those struggles at the line of scrimmage and in the intermediate areas probably will raise enough concerns where he could slip a little bit despite his destroying of the combine.
He has almost Cam Newtonian like size. And but he never had quite Cam Newton running stat. He was pretty solid rushing stats. He had 9 touchdowns last year. But yeah, he's never really just a very, very interesting, incomplete, and a guy who really only started for 1 year. So you're telling yourself, you're painting like an upside picture. The guy is only 21 years old. Like you're taking like the ultimate upside gamble, and you probably have to be committed to letting him sit for a year, I feel like.
I mean, and that's the thing. The landing spot will be interesting, obviously, and what the team plans to do with Richardson. So the Seahawks reportedly had a very good interview with Richardson, and could be among the favorites to land him. They had the 5th pick in the first round of the draft. The Athletics' Joe Person, who covers the Panthers, said Carolina. He said, "My sense is the Panthers, like a lot of other teams, like Richardson's raw talent, but not enough to draft him." So maybe count out the Panthers, maybe count in the Seahawks, but whoever drafts him and if they plan on playing him this season, is going to have to drastically alter their offense the way the Ravens did when Lamar Jackson took over for Joe Flacco. I believe near the end of the 2018 season, they installed a new offense. And so, if whoever Richardson plays for, if he starts, that has a massive impact on his pass catchers. If he's in Seattle, say, you can't just say, oh, okay, well, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett will get by. There will be major concerns there.
Totally anecdotal, though. I don't know if I've ever seen more like tweet responses to like Anthony Richardson, like responses to a guy, like everyone over the weekend, like, yeah, I saw this guy play. He's going to be a major bust. Like that was like, I don't know if I've ever seen that kind of like stark divide between what we saw with the testing and like what his potential could be and the impression people were left with after watching.
I mean, his passing numbers are very similar to Trey Lance, and there are still 3 years into Trey Lance's career, still some questions about that.
So we'll see. But I mean, one of the most fascinating prospects you will ever come across. Anthony Richardson kind of stealing thunder from the guy we thought was going to be like the toolsy prospect this year, Will Levis, University of Kentucky, much longer track record than Anthony Richardson, starter each of the past 2 years, 4-year contributor. He's a lot older than Anthony Richardson. He's very toolsy, but I don't even know where I'm going with this question. What do we think of Will Levis coming out of the combine? Did he have a good combine? Or has his thunder been stolen? Has he been usurped by Anthony Richardson for teams looking to take on a project?
Well, yeah. I mean, our colleague Lawrence Jackson wrote about Will Levis that he underwhelmed at the combine. He didn't tank, and I don't think that he like played himself out of a high draft pick. He probably still will be drafted highly in the first round. But Lawrence writes this, and you can find this piece on NBCSportsEdge.com. Bryce Young remains the heavy favorite to be the first overall pick by BetMGM. CJ Stroud is second, and Richardson is third. But Levis now has the same odds as Alabama edge rusher Will Anderson. And so that means that Levis's odds to be fourth or fifth? 1, 2, 3, 4 have dropped. So as Lawrence wrote, Levis will have a chance to leave a lasting impression on those quarterback needy teams with picks at the top of the draft. But really, it wasn't like an overwhelming performance for him. I will say that, according to playerprofiler.com, Levis's burst score was in the 87th percentile. So he's quite the athlete. I don't think that he dinged his draft stock at all. Let's put it that way.
So, I mean, would you rather draft Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, or is the answer neither, Denny?
I think the answer is CJ Stroud. But I guess I would want to swing for the fences with Richardson.
I think I'd want to swing for the fences too. And I'm a Mizzou fan. I've unfortunately watched every Mizzou game. I've seen a lot of Will Levis. I've seen a decent amount of Anthony Richardson. By decent amount, I mean one game where he did not pass well against us at all. But I just think Will Levis had more time to like put more on the page, on film, so to speak, and just never quite saw it. And I would rather take the stratospheric upside because we cannot undersell like the combination of athleticism and size that he had. It's like almost unparalleled.
I mean, and Will Levis, his breakout age was in the kind of the middle of his 22nd year on earth. So he was 22-year-old. The breakout isn't the best sign of a guy who's going to excel in the NFL. I think that he probably can be a long-term starter in a league starved for passable quarterbacks. And we saw this today with Derek Carr being signed, and a league trending in a direction where teams are more ready and willing to embrace hyper athletic, maybe more mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think we're going to see teams taking more and more chances. I'm sure, trying to find like the next Josh Allen, which spoiler alert, probably won't exist, but you can keep trying. Will Levis turns 24 in June. Anthony Richardson turns 22 in May. So enormous difference there in terms of objectability. That's like as big as it gets, actually. You mentioned CJ Stroud. Just break down his combine. He tested well. Yeah. Lawrence said he addressed his arm strength issues. Or maybe that was you. I can't remember which one of you claimed that to me. But we liked what we saw from CJ Stroud at the combine. It sounds like Denny Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I think, going in, there were a few question marks about can CJ Stroud rip it like, maybe not like Will Levis, who has, as Will Levis told the media, I have a cannon. Which is pretty funny quote, but it's true. But CJ Stroud did, he answered any questions that remained, I think, about his arm strength. He probably had a slightly more impressive showing at the combine than Levis. So I think that he is a lock probably to go as maybe the second or the third quarterback off the way. I just read you the read you the odds per BetMGM. So I do think that he did enough to stay there. But you know what? Hey, draft season is forever, and things could change rapidly as we get closer.
Yeah, March 6th, we're going to hear about 10,000 different permutations of what you just said. And like the odds will somehow mysteriously change. People will talk themselves out of Mac Jones and into Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And then cry forever.
Right. And CJ Stroud, he's not like the super athlete that the other guys are. His 40 time was in the his 40 time was in the 54th percentile. His speed score was in the 49th percentile. 20-yard shuttle was in the 3rd percentile. So, not the uber athlete that's, not even close to Richardson, not even close to Levis. But I do think as an NFL, as a passer who could be ready to start week 1, I think he is worlds ahead of a guy like Richardson.
Do we still think Bryce Young, he is, in terms of betting odds, is the major favorite to be the first quarterback off the board. He appears to have stuffed several sacks of potatoes in his clothes to weigh in at 204 pounds.
I don't know about that.
He's our height. Literally, he's we're the same height despite what you think, and he measured in at our height at 5'10", and Or no, you're taller than me. That's right. He's my height.
Oh my God.
He's 5'10". Can someone my height really be the number 1 overall pick of the NFL?
I think as a rule, if I were an NFL GM, I would say no more small guys. Stop. We're not doing the small guy thing. But they're not.
If you do the small guy thing, it needs to be the Russell Wilson path, or you need to bet on someone like the 2nd or 3rd round, and
right?
Like someone who gets dinged for their height, and like if they're going to be a model breaker, let them be a model breaker. Make them prove it on day 2 and not day 1.
Yeah, and the fact that Bryce Young suffered an injury last season at Alabama on just a standard everyday kind of tackle. It wasn't like a freak thing. Raised a lot of concerns among anonymous NFL front office people who spoke with Sports Illustrated 2 weeks ago and said, like, look, that tackle, that was just what he's going to face every single week in the NFL. And if he missed time, I think he missed 2 weeks because of that. We have questions, and I'm not sure we can answer those before the draft. But yeah, I mean, he the odds say he's gonna go 1st overall. I just don't know. I just don't know if you can do that. Also, to Bryce Young, look, my advice to you for gaining weight, if you need to gain weight, simply become a dad. You become a dad, and bang, you wake up one morning and you're 35 pounds heavier. So there you go.
If you're going to put potatoes, do russet potatoes, not gold Idaho golden or whatever the smaller ones are. They need to be very large potatoes to get your weight up. I will say with Bryce Young that he's the classic. Like if you knew he wasn't going to get hurt, I think I would take the game. I mean, I think he's like an unbelievably good quarterback. He just happens to be a very tiny one.
He is, and he has that grind set. He has that dog.
He does. He's got lots of dog levels in him. So we don't have dog levels. We're going to end the show. Show's over. We didn't get to running backs, receivers. Can't promise. I don't know what we're going to do Thursday, but I think we might be talking some combine fallout from the running back and receiver classes, where a lot of interesting stuff, as always, happened with the testing. So we're going to have some more fallout later this week. There's going to be more fallout too, just in terms of with free agency approaching. There's going to be a lot of releases this week. It's going to be a crazy news week. So keep it locked to Rotoworld and NBC Sports Edge this week, especially next week when the action really, really gets going. It can be a really, really busy time. Denny and I are maybe going to do a free agency primer we need to talk about.
Oh, we're going to do it, folks. It's going to be up, and it's going to be glorious.
Denny, can you have it ready by Thursday, you think? we'll talk about that off.
Let's have this conversation right now.
So for Denny Carter, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back later this week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, okay? Respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.